They show how a democracy goes bad from the inside out. They show that fear can make people give up their freedom for safety, whether it's fear of chaos or fear of the other. It's a story about the fall of Rome set in a galaxy far, far away. The story is about how good institutions fall apart and evil grows. People don't notice the slow creep until it's too late. It doesn't happen with a bang. That was never the only thing Star Wars was about. It was a Trojan horse, a great piece of entertainment meant to sneak a whole mythological framework onto a generation that Lucas thought was spiritually lost. It's possible that no Star Wars idea has been mistaken more than the one about the chosen one balancing the Force. Many people thought for a long time that balance meant having the same amount of light and dark, like the yin and yang in the universe, where both sides are needed. But in explanations over the years, George Lucas has taken that idea apart piece by piece, showing a much deeper and more morally sound vision. It's not just a little off that the popular fan idea is wrong. And knowing what he really meant changes the moral tone of the whole story. Lucas says that the dark side is not a normal part of the Force. It's an evil and a cancer. He said that the dark side is like a disease that feeds on the Force, which is like a living thing. So, the Sith aren't just people who follow a different religion. They spread that sickness. They only care about themselves. To get what they want, they take from the Force and twist it, which throws the whole system off. The Force is good when it is on the light side. Being a channel for the universe's energy and not caring about yourself are important parts of it. The Sith run the Force, while the Jedi work for it. That is the most important difference. That's why balance doesn't mean giving in to darkness. It means getting rid of it. It means getting the Force back to its original, pure state. Which brings us to the sad figure of Anakin Skywalker. The Jedi thought he was the one who would be picked. He was meant to destroy the Sith and restore order, and in a terrible twist of fate, he did. Anakin's fall wasn't just a switch of teams, it was the last example of the imbalance he was meant to fix. Fear and greed, which are two of the dark side's main traits, caused him to fall. It scared him to lose Padme, just like it scared him to lose his mother. He wanted to have power over life and death because he was afraid. Palpatine, who was the worst kind of cancer cell, played on that fear. After Anakin turned into Darth Vader, he was the most unbalanced person in the world and only cared about himself. The Force was very sick for 20 years because of Vader and the Emperor. The light was almost out. There wasn't a 50-50th split, the patient was almost dead. This is why Luke's trip is so important. In Return of the Jedi, the final battle is where the prophecy finally comes true through the Chosen. 1. The Emperor tries to get Luke to do what broke his father, he uses fear and power. He tells Luke to hit him because he is mad. Luke does for a moment. In an angry fit, he hits his dad. Then came the important part. Luke looks at his own robotic hand and then at the one that was cut off of his father. And sees himself in the mirror. He can see the way ahead. At that very moment, he makes a choice that is the exact opposite of what the Sith would do. He gets rid of his blade. He decides to be kind over powerful. He says, like my father before me, I am a Jedi. This act of selfless love brings out the Anakin Skywalker that has been buried deep inside Darth Vader. As the Emperor shocks Luke, Anakin makes his last decision. So that he can save his son, he grabs the Emperor and throws him into the reactor. That one action makes Anakin Skywalker's fate come true. He gets rid of the cancer and kills the Sith, both the one who taught him and the one who lives inside him. He brings balance back. The prophecy never said that a fighter would win. The love a father has for his son is the most selfless thing that can happen, and it can heal the whole world. Luke brought peace not by fighting, but by not doing it. He saved his dad's soul, which meant that his dad saved the galaxy. If this deep look into George Lucas's mind has changed the way you think about the series, please make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. What we're all about. Finding out what the stories we love are really about. With your help, we can keep digging. The last piece of the puzzle is now here. What will be George Lucas's last act? What project would define his legacy after he sold Lucasfilm and took a break from his galaxy? The Lucas Museum of Narrative Art in Los Angeles is where the answer is being made right now. Based on what Lucas himself said about the project, this isn't just a museum, it's the real-life embodiment of his whole mindset. The museum, which is set to open in 2026, may be the most physical proof of the ideas we've been talking about. It's a $1 billion organization devoted to the idea that Lucas has lived his whole life around. It's one of the most important things that shapes our world, that stories told visually. There will be more than just what art snobs call fine art in the collection. What it will do instead is honor the power of story in all forms, including paintings, drawings, photos, comic books, and storyboards for movies. This is a very strong claim. A clear line was kept between high art and bad art for hundreds of years. Masterworks are kept in stuffy rooms, while the comics that got us excited are often thrown away as not worth keeping. Lucas is getting rid of that line with his money. "I'm so glad I didn't outgrow comics," he says with pride after admitting that he was told that he would. It's clear from the museum's holdings. It will have a huge collection of African American film history, with works by Norman Rockwell, Frida Kahlo, Jack Kirby, and Frank Frazetta all next to each other. Why? Because Lucas knows that the stories people tell each other are what keep them alive. A Rockwell painting of a town in America, a Superman comic that makes a kid want to be a hero, and a movie poster that makes you want to go on a journey. These aren't small things. These are the myths that most people today believe. He says that ideas like love, justice, and society that we take for granted are not really real. We all agree that they are ideas or stories. And story art is what makes those ideas seem real and cements them in our society. People can't live together without a shared story. This is where the museum comes full circle with Star Wars. It will, of course, have a huge collection of outfits, props, and storyboards from Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but they won't just be shown as movie props. They will be put in the bigger picture of stories told throughout history. Historical landscapes and a Ralph McQuarrie concept picture will talk to each other. The design of a starship will be based on the rules of industrial building. The museum's goal is to show that making Star Wars wasn't so different from making other great works of art. It had something to do with them. It's an incredibly kind thing to do. Lucas is using his own collection to make a public resource that will inspire people in the future. His goal is not to build a memorial to himself, but to a thought. The thought that stories are important. What did we learn? George Lucas, who is 81 years old, has given us the key to his own world. He said it: Star Wars was never just about laser swords. A 10-year-old boy asked about God 40 years ago, and this is the answer he gave. He made up this modern story to give people a sense of right and wrong in a world he thought had gone astray. We saw that the Force was his way of bringing people of different religions together by giving them a way to think about a greater power that wasn't based on dogma. For good, he has made it clear that balancing the Force doesn't mean giving in to evil. It has to do with cleaning it. The dark side isn't necessarily the opposite, it was just a cancer that was killed by an act of love that didn't care about itself. Now he's building a temple, his museum of narrative art, to make the theory that all of this is based on stronger. That telling stories isn't just for fun. This is how cultures are made and how we find our purpose. We fought over the myths and story holes for decades. Our fight was over the shape of the elephant, and we were the blind men. George Lucas, on the other hand, always saw the big picture. He wasn't just making a world. His goal was to describe our world. He talked about our darkest fears, our highest hopes, and our never-ending search for meaning through fantasy. Star Wars isn't about the Skywalkers, it's about us. It's a story that shows anyone can be a hero, that everyone can be saved, and that friendship is one of the strongest things in the world. This is a warning that one good deed can bring balance back to the world, even when things look the worst. Lucas made more than just a series of movies. He came through on everything he promised. He told us a new story. He made up new stories for us to believe. They were reminded of it. That a mysterious energy field is not the strongest force in the world. It's how strong stories are. What do you think? Does this change how you feel about the Star Wars stories? Leave your thoughts in the box below. Also, share this movie with someone who might need to hear it if you think stories can change the world. Thanks for seeing. We thought we knew everything about Star Wars for almost 50 years. The hero's journey has been broken down. We've argued about predictions and made plans for the endless wars in the galaxy. We based whole mythologies on this story. We were sure we knew what it all meant. We were wrong, it turns out. We've been like the blind men who touched an elephant the whole time. Each of us holds on to a small piece of a much bigger truth and thinks we know the whole story. Someone feels a wall, someone else a rope, and someone else a tree stem. They can't all see the animal. We've been those blind guys for decades. The person who made the elephant is now finally showing us the whole thing. Now that he's 81 years old, George Lucas is more than just a movie director, mythmaker, and businessman. Like a philosopher, he's looking back on his life's work and, for the first time, revealing the deeply personal spiritual questions that sparked it all. He's getting rid of a screen we didn't know was there. It's not just a new take on Star Wars, it's the original. The one that has been hiding all along. His solutions have nothing to do with midichlorians or trade disputes. They talk about what God is really like, where our fears come from, and why we need stories so badly to make sense of our lives. What he's explaining will change everything you thought you knew. The Force, the Jedi, and the Sith. This idea isn't just another fan theory. This is the last word from the author. A good story always begins with a question. For Homer, it was about how angry Achilles was. Shakespeare thought it was about what it means to be. It was a question for George Lucas. He said that he first asked his mother, if there is only one God, then why are there so many religions, when he was 10 years old? It's a simple question for kids. But it holds a huge religious puzzle that has stumped people for hundreds of years. It was the first thread that a young boy in Modesto, California, pulled in a tapestry that would one day become the world. He thought about that question a lot. It became the most important thing in his life, and through that, it became the idea behind Star Wars. Take a look. The Force is Lucas's solution to the question he asked himself as a child 40 years ago. God is not the Force. Lucas has made that very clear, not in the way we usually think of it. Instead, the galaxy is held together by a brilliant idea, an energy field that all living things have made. It's meant to work for everyone, going beyond the rules of any one religion to find the spiritual truth that might tie them all together. Lucas saw that almost every faith on Earth used Star Wars as a modern-day parable when it first came out. Christians saw that good and evil were in a clear battle. Buddhists saw mindfulness in Yoda's teachings. The flow of force was seen as the Tao by Taoists. It wasn't a lucky mistake, that was the whole point. Lucas did not want to start a new church. He wanted to sum up what faith is and what it does for us in a few words. He wanted to make a way for faith to flow that didn't depend on people being loyal to one group, but instead made people believe in something else. This reminds me of the Indian story about the blind man and the elephant, which Lucas has already brought up. In the story, each man only talks about the part of the thing that he can touch. The ear is a fan, the tail is a rope, and the leg is a column. In their own ways, they're all fine, but they're all wrong about the big picture. The parts are making them fight because they can't see the whole. This is exactly how Lucas sees religions in people. The blind men are the Jedi, the Sith, the Night Sisters, and the Guardians of the Wills. Every one of them is linked to the Force. Each has made a set of rules and a theory based on their own small part of it. The Jedi feel it through kindness and the light side. The Sith feel it through their dark side and their desire. They are all feeling the same elephant, but they have different ideas about what it means, which leads to endless war. Lucas was very smart because he turned this philosophical problem into a high-stakes play. These wars aren't just about politics, they're holy wars. People have them because they are stuck on rigid ideas about one general truth. It's the Sith who think the Force is bad, and it's the Jedi who think the Sith are afraid to use all of its power. They have different ideas about how to explain the elephant. Lucas didn't just make up a magic system for his space fantasy when he made the Force. To answer the question that had been bothering him since he was a child, he built a metaphysical playroom. Why are there so many? Because Star Wars shows us that each culture and person sees the big mystery of life from their own small point of view. It has different names and rules that we make up. The Force, on the other hand, is always the same. Lucas's knowledge of legend was like fuel for the question about God. And reading what he's said over the years makes it clear how deep this thought goes. He doesn't just tell stories, he sees himself as part of making myths, which is one of the oldest and most important human practices. Lucas has a lot. Explained that fear is at the root of human behavior. People are small in a very big, very chaotic, and mostly very strange world. We're scared of death, the dark, and the unknown. And what have we mostly used for thousands of years to deal with that fear? Stories. He thinks that folklore is more than just old stories about monsters and gods. It's a way to stay alive. It's how our species tries to make sense of the unknown. He said that cavemen thought they knew everything because their stories described how the sun rose. The ancient Greeks looked to their gods to help them understand how they felt, which was often messy and inconsistent. People can build groups and feel like there is order in a world that sometimes seems to have none by sharing these stories. At this point, Lucas's goals become much bigger than just making movies. He thinks that we lost that important part of what holds us together as a society in the 20th century. He saw that the old sources of faith, myth, and folklore were dying out. A long time ago, he said that kids learned myths from TV, which was bad because it didn't teach them anything moral. He thought they weren't getting enough fairy tales, which teach kids how to live and give them morals. His answer was Star Wars. That was done on purpose to make a current myth. It wasn't just a movie, it was meant to be a way to keep things eternal. Lessons on friendship, loyalty, giving up oneself, and the battle between our selfish urges and our better selves. It is well known that he relied on the work of his mentor, Joseph Campbell. Campbell's book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, set the standard for how hero stories should be told in all countries. But Lucas's idea wasn't just a copy of something else. Not only did he repeat old myths, but he also created a system for a new age. He put what he calls palpable precepts into Star Wars. Take a moment to think about the easy lines that we use every day. Have a good day. There is no try. You either do it or don't. Fear leads to the dark side. These aren't just catchy lines of conversation. They're moral mantras, like small parts of a modern religion. This is why the story looks the way it does. The Empire is made up of straight lines and grayscale colors that make it look like a clean, machine-like government. The Rebellion is made up of earth tones, warm colors, and flaws, which stands for all of us. These are symbols that are meant to hit you in the gut and drive home the main moral struggle. That's why the prequels were so important to Lucas. A lot of fans don't like them because they're about trade and politics. But when seen through Lucas's project on mythology, their goal is very clear. There's more to the prequels than just a hero falling. They are